It's 1:38 a.m. Time for Octoberpod. The names have been changed to protect the innocent. It's a phrase we've heard so often that it's nearly meaningless. Still, the importance of protecting one's anonymity is as crucial now as it was in the days of Dragnet. But why only change the names? Why not empower the innocent instead of merely protecting them? This morning's tale was submitted to us anonymously by a dear friend and co-host of a podcast which shall remain nameless. It's the story of the most harrowing encounter of her life. Frightening, violent, but also a bit mundane in the retelling, especially when compared to the dreadful deeds of Satanists and vengeful spirits. We have therefore changed the names, a handful of character details, and the setting. It takes place in a world very much like our own, except for all the superheroes. So, take a seat on the Davenport and enjoy Lady Skunk Ape, illustrated by Nic Calavera, and featuring the voice talents of Tara, co-host of 3 Spooked Girls, and Matt Cummins, co-writer and co-host of Monster Porn Podcast. Lady Skunk Ape begins after a word from our friends.
A whisper in the dark. The sound of footsteps when you're home alone. A figure, all in white, vanishes as you approach them. For as long as humans have roamed the earth, we have been obsessed with spirits. Ghosts are weaved into the very fabric of our cultures, haunting our traditions, stories, and superstitions. Hello, my name is MJ McAdams, part-time shadow person, full-time supernatural seeker. Welcome to Humble Hauntings, where the lovers of the unknown can pull up a seat and make themselves at home. I invite you to join me on a journey that will take us all over the globe and throughout history, exploring the supernatural places and entities that fill us with both fear and curiosity. Everywhere you look, you'll find that the paranormal have made a home in our society and in our minds. Which begs the question, do ghosts haunt us? Or do we haunt them? After all, home is where the haunt is.
So you want to be a game master, but you don't know where to start? Or you are a game master, and you want some inspiration or help? Well, come check out Seize the GM. Let us help to expand your art of GMing. We're on all the podcast platforms from iTunes to Stitcher. Just search for us and give it a listen. Or check out our website at www.seizethegm.com. In the end, let the dice land where they may.
Lady Skunk Ape. Claudia Cheever pressed her face against the window, watching the rain melt all the color from the world. Across the street, against a backdrop of oily gray sky and charcoal shadows, sparkling droplets of red would catch on the tail lights of the cars leaving the Treasure Chest Video parking lot. Above the store's front entrance, a faded banner shouted, "Alive and in person, meet the saucy, sexational Lady Skunk Ape," in orange, jumping out at you superhero lettering. Pale men clutching video rentals and signed memorabilia waited just inside the door for the rain to subside. Claudia's bushy, white-streaked black tail occupied the seat next to her in the booth, and she chirred to herself as it undulated in dreamy waves. She tried to unwind, coaxing her mind to wander. Still, her thoughts never strayed far from her niece.
I could be taking Sage to a movie instead of working so hard at slumming.
Rex, the guy from VHS Hellhound, placed 2 coffees and 2 jelly donuts on the table and slid into the booth. He gestured to the video shop.
Not a bad turnout for a rainy Thursday. Do you own the store outright, or do you have a partner?
Rex had a scraggly beard the color of a rusty hinge. He was dressed as one might expect a hipster genre film blogger to dress. Jeans and a corduroy jacket, buttoned up just enough to conceal the most offensive bits of his Cannibal Holocaust t-shirt. Claudia recognized the scene depicted on the shirt, the famous ass-to-mouth impalement. Not a classy fashion statement by any means, but not out of character for the staff of VHS Hellhound.
Al owns about 30% of it and oversees day-to-day operations, but the rest is all mine.
He began scribbling in a legal pad that seemed to appear out of nothingness.
I guess the interview just started.
So why open a video rental business now? Even Blockbuster is shutting the doors on the last brick-and-mortar stores. Why not let Netflix and Redbox carry the torch?
I read your magazine. I know that there's an emerging market of VHS collectors, especially in the horror, sci-fi, and exploitation sleaze genres. Not to mention, VHS releases of films like The House of the Devil keep the medium alive. We also rent and sell Blu-ray and DVD.
So have you found that business model successful?
Claudia resented the question, didn't like talking about the success or failure of her business. Still, this article could prove to be the best advertisement the store ever saw. She took a slow sip of her coffee. It was bitter, probably from a long simmer in the warming pot.
We're competitive, at least in the DC Metro. But I'd be lying if my own limited celebrity as a former hero didn't help pay the bills.
Rex smiled. Claudia couldn't gauge his sincerity by reading his facial expression. She learned more about people from smell than from social cues. But coffee and donuts asked too many cents.
There were a lot of superhero fans at this event, but I saw almost as many Psycho Billies and Psycho Bettys.
They just like to be called Psychos and Bettys, but yeah, those guys are devoted.
Rex fished through a battered canvas bag and produced a bundle of LPs bearing Claudia's likeness.
So tell me, how did you get hooked up with the Bat Dragons?
Claudia felt misled. She'd agreed to this interview, sure, but it was her understanding that she was to be one of the celebrity admirers for a special, double-sized Lucio Fulci retrospective.
This is starting to sound more like an exposition in some shitty paperback about my career. And honestly, I hate talking about myself, in spite of how I make my living.
Rex flashed that smile again, except this time Claudia sniffed out the condescension in it. "Indulge me," that smile said. She cast her eyes down at the jelly donut. Its smell, its puffiness, the way it teased her with a glimpse of the jelly inside, seduced her heightened senses. If Claudia, Lady Skunk Ape Cheever, had a kryptonite, it was stress eating. Succumbing to her weakness, she stuffed the donut into her mouth and crushed it with ravenous jaws. Raspberry jelly squirted from both ends of the pastry, shooting down her throat and onto the table. An ex-boyfriend once told her that she looked especially bestial when eating, and Claudia knew that in this moment she looked more brute than human. But didn't give a shit. After all, jelly donuts helped fuel her newest superpower, patience.
Those guys, McCready, Sammy Two-Tone, and Sizzleine, those guys went to high school with me. We were the outcasts. We wore the black t-shirts and makeup and listened to The Cure and smoked pot after school. So it started out as a personal favor to them. They thought having my familiar face, or rather my familiar skunk tail, on those LPs would boost sales. So I posed for cover shoots on 3 of their first 4 albums. It was fun, but it's something I've tried to put behind me.
What about all that vinyl you signed an hour ago?
Sometimes I try harder to put it behind me than others.
Why turn your back on it at all?
I hated the hairdos. I got those unflattering Betty Page bangs on Teenage Ouija and the Dirt Road Phantom. That skunk bride of Frankenstein beehive on the Hearst Whisperer is the worst.
Rex picked up that album and examined the cover, his eyes lingering on Claudia's airbrushed cleavage.
That your real hair?
No, cheap wig. Disturbingly cheap. I think Sizzle bought it for me at a Spirit Halloween, or one of those places. I'm not ashamed of those pictures, but my rockabilly, psychobilly experiments happened in that confusion period between the end of my career as a hero and the beginning of my association with the Treasure Chest video. And the convention circuit.
While employed by the Demeter Corporation as an individual of post-human skills and abilities, Claudia wore a skin-tight stealth suit for both covert missions and public appearances. That suit, paired with her skunk tail and furry paw-like feet, formed the basis for the Lady Skunk Ape persona, or the Lady Skunk Ape brand, as she now thought of it. But when her contract expired, the company barred her from wearing the suit in public. It soon wouldn't fit well anyway. After her failed attempts at rebranding herself as a rockabilly pinup girl, Claudia developed her new signature look. The current Lady Skunk Ape costume echoed both Demeter Corporation and rockabilly elements.
I have a confession to make. My older brother was a huge Bat Dragons fan. Went to see them every time they played the 9:30 Club or the Black Cat. He had a poster of your Teenage Ouija cover tacked up over his bed. I was 4 years younger than him, but I still shared a bedroom with him. I stared at that thing every night before I went to sleep. I memorized every inch of it.
It's a story she'd heard before. Teenage Ouija had a pretty lurid cover. It depicts Claudia sitting cross-legged over an antique Ouija board. The planchette is bloody, like she's just murdered someone with it. She's wearing striped knee socks, lots of fake tattoos, and little else. Her tail is curved over her chest, for modesty, of course. Members of the band, made up like freshly exhumed corpses, loom in the darkness behind her.
I'm glad it made an impact.
Rex nodded, almost drooling.
There are a number of evangelical groups who'd condemned you as an abomination. Reverend Josiah Cochran even famously advocated for your execution. How did you become this way? Bitten by a radioactive skunk or something?
I was born this way. My father, or whatever, if you want to call him that, was a psychotic asshole. The story's well documented if you care to do your research. Turns out that if you know the right genes to splice, you too can have a humanoid simian skunk girl of your very own.
They didn't speak for a full minute. Claudia drank her coffee, and Rex began doodling something over top of the notes he'd just written.
So what's it like working with Dick Demeter?
This question both surprised and nettled Claudia, but it also told her something about Rex. 1. This man possessed a basic bro appreciation of superheroes. 2. He was a typical Washingtonian in his obsession with the jingoistic iconography of Captain Demeter. Soldier, patriot, defender of hearth and homeland.
You're thinking of the first Captain Demeter. He retired in 1981. Let me tell you what pisses me off about that question, aside from the fact that you didn't do your research. I've been touring the superhero convention circuit for at least 3 years now, and I always get as many Demeter questions as Lady Skunk Ape questions. Now, why would someone pay good money to see Lady Skunk Ape, and I'm the only skunk ape lady out there, at a live appearance, then waste my time asking about a more popular hero? Especially in this area, where Captain Demeter, the Redskins, and politics are like the holy trinity. But who else was born with my genetic mutation? Who else could execute a laser-accurate pheromone attack?
She cocked 2 thumbs at her jawline.
Just me. That's who. Why ask me about some over-the-hill smasher when I could tell you about the time I went paw-to-toe with the insufferable Orlok?
Claudia tilted her head with an expression not unlike a perplexed cocker spaniel. She decided not to give Rex the straight dirt until she could sniff out all the angles he was playing.
I was an actual member of the Demeter Corps. We can't all be Captain Demeters. Or is it Captains Demeter? Right? I served with Yetta Hauser, the 4th Captain Demeter, in 1998. She and I ran a number of missions off the coast of Tanzania. Anyway, Jet and I still send each other Christmas cards. She's very good at her job, and I'm happy to call her my friend.
Of course, this was just the fairy tale she told her fans. Claudia and Jet hadn't spoken in years. They both fought in the St. Petersburg incident of March of '06. The series of events that opened a rift in their friendship quickly became fodder for national news, comic book crossovers, and a catalyst for Claudia's semi-retirement. But that was a lifetime ago, and to retell the story at every convention appearance, interview, or book signing would dredge up too many old heartaches. Rex smiled. His demeanor reminded her once more of the guy she met in the video store. Warm and laid back. The guy who'd pair a Cannibal Holocaust t-shirt with a corduroy sports coat. The kind with suede patches at the elbow. Except, it wasn't quite Cannibal Holocaust. It was a parody of it. The buttons on Rex's jacket had become undone to reveal more of the gruesome image on his black t-shirt. It wasn't poor Italian actress Francesca Chiardi nude and impaled on a cannibal's spit. It was just some chick who looked like her, and she was impaled on a massive, bloody cross. Clamp, an acronym in Old English lettering, framed the sharpened tip of the cross that jutted from the nude's gaping mouth. Claudia never found out what Clamp stood for, but she always suspected that the C was for Christ or Christian.
There's something I've always wanted to know, ever since those long, restless nights staring up at your poster.
What's that?
Does it smell like skunk?
Does what smell like skunk?
Her phone received a text message, and it was from Al. She reached for her phone, and as she reached, she took note of the doodles on Rex's legal pad. He'd drawn about a dozen hunting knives fanned out like a deck of cards. 4 of them even had a suit. Spades, clubs, diamonds, hearts, drawn onto the blade near the hilt. 7 of them were marked with esoteric symbols, Coptic and Gnostic crosses, a swastika, and several others Claudia couldn't identify. Rex had drawn the centermost knife with a $sign on the blade. Opposite this money knife hovered the disembodied head, dripping with gore, of a skunk with a Betty Page haircut. Its mouth was open, revealing cartoonish Bugs Bunny incisors, as if ready to lick one of the knives.
Your filthy godless blood, of course!
Rex slid the legal pad under her nose to offer her a better look at his artwork, but instead of studying the drawing, she read Al's text. Guy from Hellhound is here. Says that guy Rex is not on staff. Where you at?
Does it smell like skunk? Tell me or I'll kill every last motherfucker in here.
What?
Pipe bomb hit it under the counter early this morning before you even rolled out of your doggy bed. But it won't matter. How was your coffee? Bitter? I added something to it. You'll be paralyzed in a few minutes, then back to my van where I'll gut you real slow-like.
Waves of revulsion shuddered through her body. She hated herself for her own gullibility.
First, he chats me up like some half-assed narrator to compensate for lazy background research. Then he comes out as a full gospel misogynist nut job.
But she couldn't dwell on it for long. She had to act, and if he really had drugged her, act quick. Everything that happened next went down fast, though it might seem longer in the retelling. Certainly to Claudia's post-human senses, a few moments of action felt like 3/4 of an hour. She took inventory. Not too many people eating donuts this time of day. Good. Still, those citizens would need to leave before she unleashed the beast. She eyed Rex. He was a bit lumpy, but the flesh beneath all the corduroy rippled with the upper body strength built up from years of farming or dock work. If he had the stones to take on someone with post-human abilities, he must have either brute strength or a concealed weapon, aside from the alleged pipe bomb, compensate for his bad manners. Claudia stood, lunged forward, and pinned Rex's hands to his chest like a straitjacket. Already she could feel his farm boy or grease monkey strength pushing against her. As a hero, she learned to make her voice carry across a battlefield or over the length of a hangar full of idling scramblers. It was a trick that required a healthy diaphragm, and in her prime, one could bounce Austrian shillings off Claudia's.
Everyone, clear out.
In the small donut shop, despite the fact that she'd become somewhat soft in the middle, The technique worked like a starter pistol. The first diners sprang for the door before Claudia could add,
Call 911. I'm a licensed Demeter Corps reservist.
She pressed against his chest harder. As the last people, an elderly Vietnamese couple who were regulars like Claudia, shuffled through the exit, Claudia lowered her face to regard her interviewer.
Rex, I'm going to restrain you until the police arrive. Don't be stupid.
A hot furnace of crazy smoldered in Rex's eyes, and as his strength gained traction, Claudia knew he had no intention of making life easy for her. As Claudia could feel the shape of a big hunting knife secreted in his jacket, he twitched the fingers of his left hand and would be grasping it soon enough. Claudia gritted her teeth and tightened her abs. In 2002, Atari produced an arcade game called Captain Demeter, Cavalcade of Carnage, which featured Lady Skunk Ape as a playable character. The concept of the game was simple. Who's the mightiest hero? Let's find out. It matched up popular heroes like gladiators in a Roman Colosseum, or a deserted subway station, or the bridge of a starship, or a slimy dungeon crowded with moaning specters, who then pummeled each other into bloody piles of quivering superhero sushi. Claudia never understood why fans enjoyed hero versus hero action more than hero versus villain. Lady Skunk Ape's signature move was to spray pheromones onto an opponent and then seduce that opponent into committing suicide. Her favorite part of the game came at the beginning of each match, when the narrator, voiced by Michael Ironside, shouted two magic words. Ready, fight! Claudia gripped the flesh on Rex's hands tight enough for her fingernails to bite into it. She vaulted onto the table, positioning herself to pull Rex out of the booth and sling him onto the table behind her. Lady Skunk Ape never wore shoes to a fight. Her paws had great traction and could claw your eyes out. But today, Claudia Cheever was wearing her favorite sneakers. That's why she slipped. When she landed on the table, she planted her right foot in Rex's uneven donut with a comical farting noise. Her foot flew up and her ass hit the linoleum. This gave Rex his opportunity, and he wasted no time in pulling the knife. It was an ugly tool with a 6-inch blade designed for skinning wild game. Claudia stood, a trifle faster than Rex could step out from the booth. He lunged at her. Claudia dodged. She didn't completely clear the knife because the teeth on its serrated edge snagged on a strand of her hair and plucked it out. In the corner of her eye, Claudia saw steam rising from a pot of decaf just out of arm's reach. She bucked her hips and stretched out her tail to grip the pot and sling it at Rex's face. Her tail wasn't nearly as strong as her arm, but strong enough to crack the pot. Rex howled, his face now a red ruin of blisters and glass. He made some blind, wild passes with the knife, but Claudia had no trouble keeping out of his way. Rex drew back his hand to stab at her with a windmill motion. Claudia kicked off her shoes and, before he could bring the blade down, landed a stout kick to his solar plexus. As Rex fell, Claudia jumped as she dug the claws of her left foot into the wrist of Rex's knife hand and pinned it to the ground with enough pressure to snap bone. The knife slipped out of fingers now stunned with pain. Rex wriggled beneath her as if to grab the knife with his other hand. Before he could roll, Claudia snatched up the knife. Instead of the knife, Rex grabbed Claudia's tail. Now she felt the full extent of those farm boy muscles, and he nearly tugged her off her feet. Her tail may have been strong enough to serve coffee, but was no good for arm wrestling.
Skunk
Let it
meat,
go.
Skank meat, roly-poly, stank meat!
Let it go.
Skunk meat, skank meat. Woo! This tail is pretty pungent, Claudia!
Let it go.
The saucy, sexational Lady Skunk Ape swung the knife in a glittering steel arc and sliced the hand clean off Rex's arm. She had expected the hand to loosen its grip and fall to the floor with a splat. Instead, it would take 15 or 20 minutes for the paramedics to remove it. breaking 3 finger bones in the process. Attempts to surgically reattach the hand would fail. Claudia spent the remainder of the evening recounting the incident to some stalwart Loudoun County policeman. She realized, even before the patrol cars arrived on the scene, that she had overstepped her role as a peacekeeper. Registered heroes could apprehend a perp, but slicing off appendages was considered poor form in the eyes of the law. As it turned out, no one questioned her use of force because Rex Morrison, an assumed name, turned out to be a shitbag of the highest order. The judicial system in the Commonwealth of Virginia cared little for his well-being, so long as someone brought him to justice. Police found enough evidence in Rex's car to link him to unsolved murders in Richmond, Baltimore, Newport News, and a couple of missing persons in Henrico County and Chesapeake. When she left the scene, Claudia felt something glowing inside of her. She'd felt it before with a hot African breeze whipping through her mane. The odor of a diesel fire had fouled the air, and the waters of the Gulf had darkened to indigo, and then to black beneath approaching storm clouds. And Jet Hauser had been standing at her side, laughing, radiant, a lifetime ago. It was past midnight when Claudia returned to her apartment. The rain had moved on, only to be replaced with a thick, swirling fog. She kicked off her shoes and padded to the fridge, looking for something other than a jelly donut to fill her stomach. Secured to the door with a Papa John's magnet was a rectangle of pink construction paper, a homemade birthday card from Sage, her niece. Its message was written in uncertain rainbow crayon script.
Happy birthday to my favorite superhero.
This is Edward October. It's Sunday morning and I'm here at a typical American home. But inside, Jen and Cam of our True Crime Podcast sit down to record their latest episode. Though Jen and Cam are lifelong friends, they approach true crime with the utmost professionalism. They're focused,
So, what do you?
highly articulate,
Alachua? Is that how you say it? Right.
Alachua, like Joshua, but Alachua.
Alachua.
You will Alachua onto my...
and above all, compassionate.
Honestly, I debated if I wanted to do this. And in the end, I decided it was important to honor this baby's short life.
Every day, more folks wake up hungry for a true crime podcast. And our true crime podcast is enjoyed best by more people. So whenever you're downloading any podcast of any kind, be sure to download an extra episode of our True Crime Podcast. You'll like them. Available on all your favorite podcatchers or at ourtruecrimepodcast.com.
See this? The mouth? It gets me in trouble.
The Dead Game by Susanne Leist. Who are the dead? Are they humans or vampires? Does the door held by the villagers contain the answers to the never-ending puzzle? The Dead Game has begun. The Dead Game and Pray for the Dead by Susanne Leist. Available now on Amazon.